morning to CONEX. I'm here with Jeff Zellen in his beautiful conference room at Davis Elliott, and we're going to go through some items today. And rather than introduce you, I'll just let you introduce yourself. So feel free to brag on yourself as much as possible.
My name is Jeff Zellen. I'm with Davis Elliott. I'm a division manager working for our electrical services division. I'm a former EKU grad, so I came through the EKU.
When did you graduate from EKU?
2004.
Oh, you're an old guy.
Yeah, thank you. I was the young guy in the room, and then all of a sudden I looked around and I was like, no, I'm not the young guy. When I interviewed my first guy whose birth date was the year that I graduated high school, I realized that I'm not the young guy.
Oh, not anymore. Not anymore. So, what's your position here?
I'm a division manager. So our company is made up of 4 regions.
Mm-hmm.
Our central region has a group that does transmission, distribution, electrical services, which is like commercial and industrial construction,
mm-hmm.
and our traffic group that does DOT lighting, highway lighting, traffic signals, that sort of stuff. So I'm over the electrical services group, and I report up to region.
So as far as your company goes, how we were talking before we started about how large your company is. Mm-hmm. Can you describe like the history of your company, where you guys came from, where you're at now?
Sure. Elliott was founded in 1946 by one of the Elliots, and started out kind of a little bit of commercial type construction, a little bit of utility construction. Over the course of that time, it grew from just a crew or two up to what it is now, which is 2,400 employees. Work across the southeastern to eastern United States.
And you said this is your headquarters here in Lexington?
Correct, yes. Headquartered here in Lexington. We have offices in Oklahoma, Nashville, Dayton, Ohio, Roanoke, Virginia, Baltimore.
How far west do you guys go?
Really, Oklahoma is as far west.
Okay.
We work down in the Carolinas. One of the big parts of our business is storm response.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of our growth is fed by when the wind blows. Lines become a hot commodity, as do bucket trucks.
Yeah.
And we.
So when you have a storm or something, you guys pack up and you guys go?
Yes, it's pretty complicated, but the utility crews that normally work on a kind of an hourly or
mm-hmm.
unit basis get released from the customers that they work for, and they all drive south. So my particular business line in commercial construction, obviously, we don't engage in that really.
So, for your section of the business, I mean, when you started, were you in this sector when you started with the company?
I did. I started as a project manager.
Okay.
In commercial construction.
And so, what did it look like when you walked in the door here, and what does it look like now to you?
When I started, we had one estimator, the division manager, and I was the second project manager,
mm-hmm.
so to speak. And I want to say, I don't know the exact numbers, I think we had like 30 to 40 field electricians. And that was in end of 2011. And so today we've got almost 130 electricians working in the field.
Wow.
3 estimators full time, and what I'll call 10 or 11 administrative type managers.
So what do you guys attribute the growth like that for? I mean, that doesn't just happen overnight or happen by just not having a plan. What do you guys attribute that to?
I'd say one is being smart about projects,
mm-hmm.
not chasing size, but chasing successful projects. Wanting to make money. The other one is working on building responsibility for people and,
mm-hmm.
and building the people, and kind of come to the awareness of scale. At some point, I can't meet with every customer that we have. It's physically impossible. I've got to engage my leaders
mm-hmm.
to go be that customer guy. I can't be responsible to every apprentice and every electrician for their development. I can help build an organization that develops electricians, but I have to engage my managers and my supervisors to be that person that's developing electricians, and you build that framework and that culture, and it's kind of been not us reaching out trying to grow. It's almost happened too fast. It's almost growing organically, and we're not even really reaching out.
What's interesting is what you say is it's so interesting to me is like you become the voice. You know, when you get involved in an organization and as you grow, you're the voice to the customer and everything, and then you get to a point where you're no longer that voice, and so your only effectiveness is having those people in the positions to be the voice, because you know, as you said, you don't get to meet with every client.
Everything that we're taught, Elliot adopted a servant leadership model, I think back in like 2009, so right before I got here, and it was just built on don't feel like you have to do everything. Train the guy and explain to him how you want it done, and then you don't have to do everything. You get the guy underneath you doing it, or 2 levels down, and everybody working towards the same goals. And you don't have to be an everything person. You trust your people and you train them to do things the way you want it done.
So was that servant leadership model something that was like a deliberate thing, or was it just something that was a culture here already?
I think it was Dave Haskins, who's our company president, will just say he was forced to go to a leadership seminar of sorts, and went into it thinking, what is this? And came out really energized and realizing that at some point he can't reach down to that lineman in the field and say, hey, I want you to work safe. All he can do is influence the leaders to build a culture that will make that guy want to work safe. And it's just when you start putting it in those perspectives, all of a sudden he felt free to work the way he wanted to. And ever since then, like I said, the growth has been outstanding.
Have you guys had any specific significant events that kind of have changed your guys' business model?
I would say if you asked David, he would immediately go to the servant leadership and say that's made all the difference. I couldn't say there's anything. Obviously, good economic times is good for anybody in construction.
So you came to them when the times were lean. So 2008, 2009. That's what we did. No.
I started here in 2011.
Oh, okay.
The company I was working for was also an electrical contractor, and they went out of business. I came from seeing what it looks like when the growth is bad and isn't successful. So it was just a good time to come.
How was that for you with being a company that was a sinking ship? How I guess that was a good learning experience, but
it was extremely educational. I'm not saying I ever want to do it again. But being around as that took place, you got to see what, they actually brought in what I guess they call a crisis manager, this consultant that comes in when stuff's really bad, and they boiled the business down so to the very basics of the business, which is you do the work, you please the customer, you get paid, you build the customer and you get paid for the work. If money's not coming the door, somewhere in that basic framework, something's not happening. And it was really interesting to see them boil the business down. And
so what? And if you can't talk about it, that's fine. But what was broken that led to that?
They hired some people and entered another market, and the people weren't upholding the same. They got some really cheap work, and it consumed the resources of the company trying to contain that. But that's where I think what we talk about here at Elliott is expectations and accountability. If you do hire somebody, you don't stick them in a position. You put them in a position where they can learn to do things the right way. You don't put them out where, I hope it goes well. well, no, I'm going to make sure it goes well. I'm going to make sure you know what you say you know before I put you in a position that it can hurt us.
So it sounds like they kind of took their eye off the ball of where they were and try to go towards the shiny thing rather than focus on their core business.
Absolutely. And then all of a sudden the shiny thing started pulling. They couldn't even answer the core business because even the resources, when trouble started, all the good foremen went to try to fix it, and all the stuff went to try to fix it, and it was just too far gone before.
As you said, it's a good learning experience, not something you want to do on a regular basis, but I think it makes you appreciate when things actually go well, rather than, because you know what the opposite side of that could be.
Yeah, it absolutely does make you appreciate it, and, Elliott, another interesting thing about that is it was a construction company that had been passed down to the next family generation of ownership. Elliott went a different path with that. They didn't want to sell out to a big conglomerate. They wanted to protect the employees that had been here a long time. So they sold the company. Phil Elliott sold the company to the employees. And over the last, I can't remember when we bought the last chunk of the company, but it's now 100% employee owned. So
does everybody have a piece, or is it just like key personnel? Or?
No, it is. It goes down to after you're here for a year, you earn the ESOP, and then depending on the performance of the company and the safety performance of each division, that's what determines your ESOP for the year.
Was that in existence when you came here?
It was just starting. They had the employees had bought a portion of the company at that point. It wasn't 100%. But it does go down to apprentice level guys. So an 18-year-old apprentice that starts with us, by the time he's finished his apprenticeship, he's also a fully vested member of the ESOP with shares of the company.
That's neat. Especially, I'm sure that helps with retention and a lot of different things.
It just gives everybody a bit of ownership.
Yeah.
So it makes it, it's our company.
And that's why I'm taking mine to an employee ownership in about 10 years from now, and the reason is just because if you want high quality people to stay, and especially if you're a family-owned business, that's a hard thing to do because everyone automatically assumes that, hey, your son's going to get it or your daughter's going to get it, so, and my kids don't get anything, so probably what's left in my bank account when I'm all done, but, so, how do you guys prepare for the future? Do you guys, and I'm talking about like strategic thinking, like your 5-year plan and things like that. What's the process you guys go through? Do you have strategic planning meetings? Do you push projections up to the president who meets with those people?
I read that question when you sent it to me before the podcast, and I felt woefully inadequate because it's probably not. Whatever we're doing doesn't seem like enough when you think about it in those terms. But even, I guess, the biggest thing, we take our business, it's all about people. So the way we're planning for 5 years is develop our people now so that 5 years from now we can handle and it's also trained us to not think about, we need to train people to run our businesses it looks now. We need to train we've grown 800 employees over the last 5 years. We got to be ready to handle another 500 employees, so we don't have to just train people to fill the roles we have now. If growth continues, even at a small pace, we got to be ready to meet those new challenges. And over the last, we've got a lot of the heads of our company are retiring in this year, next couple of years. And it goes back 3 years ago. We started transitioning people into positions where they would be able to, starting to fill those roles, so that when these people that have been with the company for a long time and just lead Elliott disappear, there's not all of a sudden a hole to fill. We've already filled it, and then some. That's probably
that's unique because most people don't think that. Most people just say, "Hey, the keys are on the desk." but I guess with the operation as big as you guys are, and as me and you talked before, I never realized how large you guys actually were, and I knew you guys were a force to be reckoned with in this area, but I didn't realize by employees, how large you were, and then looking at your yard here, I didn't realize how many bucket trucks and how many, how much equipment and stuff you have. And with what you guys do, it's not like you can just indoctrinate someone quickly either, So, because I mean, you guys deal with some pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, big learning curve, and as you know, I've talked before about there's not enough qualified people to fill all of those, job openings for building people, and
is that your guys' biggest challenge? You think is just finding people you can grow? Is that one of your biggest challenges you guys have now? Because it sounds like from a work perspective, you guys are doing very well.
I think it's finding people to grow them. In other words, we whether it's just our area of the country or whatever, but I've got way more eager young men that want jobs here to learn than I have ability to have people in place to train them and oversee them and those kind of things. So growing leaders and trainers is probably harder than filling that. I get 5 to 10 a week of young men wanting to come on board, and they just want to work. They're not necessarily.
But they just don't have that skill set yet.
They need to learn the skills.
And yeah, that's what you guys do is, I always say, if I could do it all over again, I'd be an electrician, just because I think it's really, really interesting. And what you guys do is, you guys do from high voltage down to, do you guys even do low voltage? Or you guys?
We do. We've got an RCD on staff, and so some of them like to say we do everything from a battery to lightning bolt. Kind of
and that's incredible, because if you're an electrician, you get involved in a company like this, you can look at numerous different areas you could possibly go into, although I believe construction is the best. Well, just because of what you deal with, I think that's really interesting. Not that I don't think high voltage is interesting, but it seems to be like a lot of repetitive tasks when like a building doing all the rough end and stuff is, in my mind, sort of more complicated.
A big part is collaboration, and working for Elliott, obviously, safety is a big deal for all our customers, but really high on our utility customer side, which also is part of, you don't get a second chance a lot of times when you're working with live high voltage. So training those folks, you got to know that they know what they're doing before you put them in that position. There's no shortcut to learning how to do that.
Well, I was thinking about this after we had talked before. The top 3 usually of fatalities are stuff you guys deal with all the time. Heights, getting hit by stuff from heights, and electrical shock, and then sometimes caught between gets in there or whatever, but usually the top 3 of those, and I mean, you're throwing people directly into, you're not throwing them in there, but you're putting them in a position where they can not come home, so.
And I want to touch on something there in just a minute, talking about one of the initiatives we got going on right now. But you also, one of the things that is different between their business and our business in construction is they deal with probably more hazardous things, but they're more in control of them because they have their own job site, their own setup. They've got public to worry about, but when you've got 20 other contractors, some of which don't value safety the same way we do.
Yes.
That collaboration really makes what we do in construction really cool to bring all of those people together to kind of create something. When it goes right, it really goes right. You can tell. One of the things you talked about from preventing those really serious injuries that we've got going on is we're calling it a SIF initiative. SIF stands for serious injury or fatality. And from an industry standpoint, the industry has done a remarkable job of decreasing your day-to-day injuries. In other words, guys are wearing gloves. We're not sending somebody to get stitches once a week. It's really gone down to a really small amount. What they found over the last few years is that the serious injuries have not followed suit. Everybody had a mindset of, we get rid of all the little injuries, the big injuries will stop happening. It was the triangle. They found that that's not the case. These life-changing, life-altering injuries are still occurring at about the same rate. So one of the things that we've done is I'm on a task team company-wide where we're meeting to work on. Okay, yeah, we've gotten the low-level recordable type injuries, the sprained ankles, the cuts on your hand kind of stuff down to a very, very, very low amount. How do we get, it hasn't worked, but that's gotten rid of the big events. How do we twist that? How do we turn the dial a little bit more to where we eliminate the risk of those really bad incidents?
Are you guys on to anything, that you can point out? I know one of them is behavioral-based safety. That's a big thing. You can provide somebody all the PPE you want, but if they don't act right, you have, it doesn't mean anything.
One of the things that we've seen is, the model is, if it's a near miss, yeah, we might talk about it a little bit, we might report it, but nothing happened, we're good. Well, the right answer is we might put a lot of attention to somebody that got stitches because it's recordable. Something might fall and land next to a person 2 feet away that might have killed them if it had hit them, and we go, no, well, nothing happened, so we're okay. But the reality is, why that thing fell 2 feet from him is more, you can learn more from that than from somebody who was careless with a knife and cut their hand. That's where we need to take that near miss and explore that event to learn from it, to how do we eliminate it in the future. So it's ratcheting up attention on things that could have been really bad versus things that, it doesn't mean we don't want to send somebody to get stitches once a week. It's not to say that. We got to still keep those incidents down. We just may not need to pour as many resources into.
And what's interesting about that is that there's research on behavioral-based safety, and one of the items is, do you realize that, and it's something you may want to take back to your committee, and for listeners to think about, there's over 400 near misses. It's like mid-400s near misses before you actually have a fatality. So just by the numbers alone, it's just, like you said, nobody pays attention. It's like a car, check engine light. Just let it roll until something major happens. And there's plenty of that, hey, there's a problem here, but people are, I guess it's the thought that, hey, we're lucky, nobody got hurt, so.
Well, it's like so you have one serious injury or fatality, and you want to take that 1 to 0. Well, if you just focused on that 1 and trying to get it to go to 0, what you said was, you got to back up. You got to focus your attention on the 400 near misses that could have been bad. You get rid of those 400, now you get rid of the 1. And that's really where we're...
Well, I guess, a lot of people give safety lip service, and I guess, what I get from talking with you, and, I poked around your website a bit before I came, and what I know of you guys is safety is a really big thing with you guys. Well, partly because what you guys do, but, obviously you work with some pretty hazardous stuff, but there's a lot of companies that just give lip service just because they want to keep clients or whatever. So
we are oftentimes, working in, our commercial construction. We do a lot of small jobs, and oftentimes our guys are the only ones on site wearing hard hat, safety glasses, and gloves. Why? And fall protection. Things that you would think shouldn't happen anymore, but we've got our guys doing those things because, and I think it was a transition from a little more than lip service of, we're good, to, no, we are really going to do all of these things, and it's going to make an impact.
And that's a hard thing, because when you have your guy go out there, and then you have everybody, all the other subs go out there, and nobody else is following the rules, but you have to follow the rules. That could be a hard thing to kind But you know, it sounds like with the training you guys have in place and the process you guys have in place, that I mean, it's not just, hey, we're telling you to do it. We kind of expect that.
Yeah, and it ties back into which I think it ties back to, you know, everybody has ownership. With part of being an ESOP member, if there's lots of people getting injured, your ESOP contribution at the end of your ESOP goes down at the end of the year. It doesn't help the guy that just started because he's not really vested yet, but your 5 and 10 year guys that got a pretty good, they've seen what it can do.
And drawing that link between those two
Yeah.
is people think, well, people know that, but by drawing that link, I think you really drive home. This is not. I mean, we don't want anybody to get hurt, and that's really what it's about. But at the end of the day, if our workman comp premium double, that takes away from our net profitability. You know, and if our EMR rate goes up, we may not be able to get work. You know, what, you know, talking to you personally here, what skills and ability do you think has, and I know you're a humble guy, so I'm asking this, but what skills and ability do you think that you bring to the table for you know, your company that has helped you be successful?
One of the things is coming from a construction management background. So went to school for construction management, worked for a CM for a few years before I started in as a subcontractor. And it was things that I took for granted that I learned working for a CM that I realized aren't prevalent in the subcontracting world, because a lot of those people are grown out of a trade or something. They're not exposed to like some of the things that you all do, the high level scheduling and that, you know, estimating, all of those things that I kind of took for granted that I knew. I didn't realize that not everybody has that background. Not everybody has those things. So I'm being able to take some of those things and teach others and really bring up the level of project management, that working for a company that does utility work and subcontract work. You know, utilities kind of assume that role of the manager. They give you the material, they tell you where to go, they kind of assume that role. So I've been able to bring some of those construction management skills that I've learned and incorporate them into our business.
What I think is funny about that is you probably did this. You took it for granted that people just know. I was at a training with subcontractors, and I said CPM, and someone was like, "What's that?" And I said the critical path method, and they're like, "What's that?" And I think that, and I just assume that everybody in construction knows that. You know, everybody understands that concept, and what I failed to realize is that they understand how to lay block, how to lay brick, how to do rough and electrical. That other stuff is not, they don't bring to the table. So I can see someone like you really helping self-perform company like you have bring that to the table, and I think that's what where a lot of subcontractors fall short, is they don't have that knowledge and ability. So that's good. If you were to give advice, you know, to someone looking to get into your kind of business and grow, you know, now that you're looking, I mean, I don't like to say late in your career, that would age me too, but if you were to look back in your career, you're at a point right now where you could say, a young man, a young woman comes to you and says, hey, I want to have your job someday. What kind of advice would you give them? What direction would you give them?
One of them would be just immerse yourself in the details. I really am passionate about construction. I want to know. I don't just want to walk through a site wondering what the electricians are doing. I walk through the site wondering what the steel guys doing, the concrete guys doing. The whole process fascinates me. So when I get a set of plans, I want to understand the whole project, not just the electrical side. And I think that would be my advice. And I've seen some people come in as managers, and they kind of want to leave that to the, you know, really diving into the plans. Let the field guys figure that out. They got to figure that out. they don't get into all those details. And it's come easy for me because I like it. I really want to understand how it all goes together. But not everybody has that drive to really get in, like an estimator has to get into those details. And the more you learn, and I guess the second thing would be ask questions. I found as a young CM going to the top tradesmen and saying, why are you doing that way? I would first get a little bit of a nervous reaction because I thought I was questioning what they were doing, and I said, man, I'm asking because I want you to teach me why you're doing what you're doing. And once I got past that little awkwardness of me being the CM and asking questions, they'd explain it to me, and they're the ones that really know how the work goes in. So I've learned from.
It's funny how open people are when you say, hey, you have reciprocity there. You give them credit for their knowledge and their experience, and it seems how it's funny. I think what we lack in construction altogether more than anything is something that you're very strong in is soft skills. So, and I talk a lot about that because I think we focus so much on drawings and specs and those things, and those are important, but the ability to communicate is just huge.
And again, it's another one of those things that I learned that I take for granted, which is something as simple as how to write a good RFI, how to get somebody to answer the question you really need an answer to. And it comes back to simple communication. With our servant leadership model, that's really what it is all about. Is a lot of people call it soft skills, but it's probably more difficult than
absolutely
the hard skills.
Yes.
Which is looking somebody in the eye and saying, "Hey, man, you're not meeting expectations. Here's what I need you to do. I'm going to get back with you in a couple weeks. We're going to see how you're doing, and you really need you to improve."
Because those technical skills have the right and the wrong answer. It's really a black and white. When there's a lot of gray in those other skills, how do you effectively counsel somebody when they're messing up? There's a lot of gray area there.
And to be humble enough to also give them credit when they do a good
Absolutely.
job. Hey, that was really good, and I want to see more of it. And that it's much harder than learning the trade skills.
Is kind of how you are in your personality, and I would describe you as a confident, humble person. Is that kind of the culture you guys have around here, and that people, or is that something unique to your business unit, or is it when you talk about servant leadership? I think of a lot of people who are confident in what they do. They're not braggarts. They just are humble about the way they go about doing business.
And I think that's culture around here. A lot of people, I've always been impressed, and even from when I started here, how everybody kind of worked hard, did their job, but not a lot of frills. When you met somebody from IT, it was not just, oh, here's the computer we reworked from somebody else, make it work. It was a professional setup. They prided themselves on you having everything you needed, everything worked right, and that hit me in the culture that even, again, when you go to accounting and the people that you work with in accounting, they truly see themselves as wanting to be successful so that the whole business is successful. I think it is the culture around here. It's probably one thing that's helped me to be successful here, is fitting in. It was natural for me to fit into that.
So tell me about some things that you've failed on in your career and you've learned from, and then some things you've succeeded in, on. And I know that's kind of tough to. A lot of people don't like to call it failures. I personally think that it's not a bad thing to fail, but some people like to call it, challenges. But so talk a little bit about what those were for you personally.
Personally, I'd say some of the failures, which there have been a lot. I'll think about specific projects that didn't go well, but that's probably not as big of failures as the times when a lot of taking things, assumptions is really what it comes down to. setting something up that you thought was going to happen and not making the phone call the night before to say, hey, make sure you show up on site that next day, and not being clear in communication and finishing communication. I feel like those were the failures that brought me to, that I learned from more than anything, was having bad communication and those kind of things, where I realized that, okay, there's an easier way. All you got to do is not make that assumption and finish the communication. It's not very specific, but in my mind, I could think of,
I'm sure there's
100 times that I did it wrong.
Well, it doesn't have to be one event. It could be. It sounds like this.
I did it wrong. I didn't get good results, and then later on went, okay, I'm not gonna do that again, and move forward. That's really the things that I've learned from.
What about on the success side of things?
Success side is, I guess the biggest successes around here are when getting somebody to learn a new skill and come up, to that next level, and take somebody that, talk about one of our young electricians that showed up here and kind of wiry young kid, and you saw him and you went, yeah, 60's here next week, and then 4 years later, he's a, licensed electrician. He's got a Dixie level 2. I mean, he's a rock star. And when we got 100 of those stories, but those are the successes.
You know what I think is pretty amazing is because we always talk in construction about like buildings and things like that, but hearing you talk, the thing that you have communicated more than anything is about people. Because I think you put the link together that a lot of people don't. It's not necessarily about the buildings, it's about the people. Because if you take care of people, they take care of the whole concept is related. Take care of the people, they take care of everything else. Give them the tools and ability,
Yeah, with a lot of what we've learned about servant leadership, they talk about Southwest Airlines and how the flight attendants treat customers, and that is, I can't remember his name, but he said, if I take care of my flight attendants, they take care of my customers. They see them every day, and that's the way they built their successful airline. And that's one of the examples that we are talking about.
And it's the same thing we were just talking about, having your trade people out there in the field. We treat them right, then they represent you well in the field, and it's a win-win for everybody. It's would you say you learn more from your failures and your successes, or your successes more than your failures?
Obviously learn more from the failures. You got to be willing to learn from the failures in order to move towards the successes. But you still got to be able to. We have kind of the model around here is learning. We try to build a learning organization, and that even things that go well, we've still not gotten to where every job goes perfect and we're the model of efficiency. Far from it. We've got so many things that we can improve on. Just because we're having success doesn't mean there's not things you can improve. And let's not dwell on the things that don't go well. Let's keep our sleeves rolled up constantly to be looking for where's that next improvement, where's that next thing that we can get better, where's the next training opportunity for whether it's managers or whatever. We're going to take advantage of it. And that mindset that there is no end to development.
And you said something that just rang in my mind a little bit as you were saying, really identifying. You got to be able to say, hey, we had a failure. Let's talk about it. And I think maybe that's the thing that people don't want to do or don't want to admit to. I would think that failure is a great thing to learn from, And it's not a matter of dwelling on it. It's like, hey, we made a mistake. Let's don't ever make that mistake again. And this is what we're going to do to prevent that from making again. And most organizations that I'm around keep making the same mistakes again and again and again. And in your guys' situation, you got 2,400 people. So you have a chance to make that same mistake 2,400 times,
Part of that SIF initiative that I was talking about, one of the things that we've identified is we try to do a good job of learning from events or things that don't go well and get that information out. But sometimes it takes a long time, and sometimes it, by the time the message gets to the person that needs it, they don't get the why of why. Okay, it's just another safety lesson I'm learning. To really learn from events, we need to learn from them and communicate it in a much more efficient manner, so that everybody not only gets, hey, here's what happened, here's why we're doing something different because that happened, and so that everybody gets the right message.
And I asked you this question in a little bit of a different way, but I asked it again, and this is just like, what personal advice would you give to someone wanting to pursue an executive level position within the construction industry? Because you've been around the block, you've seen it you have a rare perspective that you've seen the general contractor side and the subcontractor side. Usually, as you know, people on one side or the other. Is there anything in that, or any kind of personal advice? This could be, David Dean had mentioned, choose your wife wisely. I thought that was probably the best advice of all. But can you talk about that a little bit?
A couple things come to mind. One would be, don't be in a rush. I've seen a lot of young people that get so anxious to be moving ahead. They don't build the foundation of, like I said, spending the time in the plan. Back when I started, there were not electronic submittals. I spent hours upon hours transferring comments from, through the 7 copies of submittal. You remember that?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about. In other words, I don't want to say, I hate the term page your dues, but don't be afraid to be in a position where you can learn things and take your time. You don't have to get there tomorrow. The possibilities are there.
And in my company, we call that chop wood, carry water. Because have you ever read that book? There's a book, and I would encourage you to have people. It's not a hard read, but my management team reads it each week, and it's 2 or 3 page chapters, and it just talks about chop wood, carry water, talking about, hey, you got to do some of the hard work, and you got to pay the price, at each individual stage, and enjoy the journey. And it talks, and it really is. I encourage you. He has a series of different books, but anyhow, go ahead. And,
the other one would be just be willing to teach someone else. And it's really easy to get hung up on being busy or being competitive with someone that might be kind of at the same level with you, or feeling threatened by the new person they hired that, has all these, skills or whatever, and you feel threatened, so you don't want to reach out to that person. But the truth is the opposite. If you are the person that's willing to take some time and explain something to somebody all the way, or teach them something that they don't understand, or bring them along, it's going to propel you forward. And it's really easy to get hung up on being competitive internally, or not wanting to, I'm busy, I don't have time to reach out to that person. But I've found the more time you spend trying to help people, you learn things better. You got to try to explain something to somebody, you understand a lot better. But just that teach man to fish mentality. And
I love, I don't know if you've ever seen, Denzel Washington has this speech that he does at a graduation. You ever seen that? You got to watch it. And he says, a couple things he said in there that just reminded me. He goes, each one, teach one. And I think about that all the time, because, you want to improve your effectiveness, teach 5 people. Your effectiveness is improved 5-fold, And the other one was, don't give a hand out, give a hand up, And as you mentioned there, giving somebody a fishing pole so they know what to do in the future. And I think a lot of times I have to force my guys, delegate that task, teach somebody. Well, it takes more time. Yes, now.
They may not be able to handle it well. I'm not looking at him because he doesn't know how to do it. You're the one that's supposed to be teaching him. You're the one that's supposed to be training him. Teach him how to do it, and now you're succeeding.
Absolutely. And, and 80% of all failures in a business are because of management. So There you go. It's because of that. So to kind of close out here, I'm going to give you some topics here, and I want you to grade them on a 1 to 10 scale. And it's just give me a number. If you want to explain it, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. But we're just going to go through these 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, and we'll start off with scheduling.
10. It's successful jobs from some contract perspective have good schedules and they maintain a good schedule. Mm-hmm. I can't plan my subcontract work if there's not a plan, an overall plan. And we see so many jobs that there's not a plan, and we struggle because of it. And I just feel like it's in our industry. There's no reason not to. Yes. There's too much out there.
Estimating.
8.
Contract administration.
6. That could be because I have a very talented contract administration person.
Well,
I take it for granted.
Design.
9.
Contracts.
7. I wish we would use them better in our industry. We all have read through them, but it seems like we had a project that had thousands and thousands of pages of information, yet we try to function differently than the contract. Mm-hmm. If everybody could just get to, hey, this is how we're going to do it. This is what we put in the contract.
These are rules of the game.
And we all play by the same rules. I feel like we put all that effort into all those thousands of pages, and then we try to function differently. Mm-hmm. Then why do we spend all our time on the contract?
What about accounting?
6.
Selling work.
I think 8.
And last one is leadership.
If there was a number higher than 10, I would use that.
Well, that's good to hear. And the funny thing is if you could get that one right, all the other ones take care of themselves.
Yeah,
you know.
Don't have to worry too much.
So hey, Jeff, I want to thank you for being on the podcast, and I think you give a very unique perspective, not just as a college graduate or someone who grew up in Kentucky or being part of a company that has grown. You have so many different unique perspectives along the way. I think that's going to be extremely helpful to someone who listens to this, whether they're aspiring or they're current. And maybe the general contractor will actually take you seriously and actually start doing a schedule. So, I can just imagine the headache you have to go through to deal with the schedule. So I want to do you have any last comments or anything you want to talk about before we let off?
I don't think so. I appreciate you coming in.
Well, I thank you so much. I'm very impressed with, like I said, the fact that you guys are in multiple buildings down here at Blue Sky Parkway, and just the facilities alone are pretty incredible. I cannot believe how many trucks you have parked out back. So that makes me feel good.
Yeah,
when
don't
I
talk about it too much because the accountants don't
they don't want to see him park do it.
They want to see him produce.
I want to know how come I was out of power for 3 weeks during the last ice storm with all these trucks back here. But I thank you so much. Next CONEX will be Stephen Gray from Gray Construction, and we'll see you then.